Welcome, Fadi Bishara. Fadi, you are one of the founders of Blackbox. Tell us about Blackbox. What is it? What's behind that idea of Blackbox?
So Blackbox started by myself, Bjorn Lasse, and Max, and we came together to find a scalable way to help accelerate startups. You know, we were driven by various focuses on the same vision of how can we help entrepreneurs globally. Bjorn has created an online startup school. I've been building teams for startups for the past 15 years.
All right.
Max has been starting to dig into the science piece of it and understand what are the data points and the best practices that could help increase the success rate of these startups.
Okay, and with Blackbox you just published the Startup Genome Report that is, so to say, the essence of the things you found out. When you talk about the content of the Genome Report, what are the main things that do work for startups and what makes startups fail? Can you tell us a bit about these things?
So the Genome the first report we published by the end of May was based on a survey of 650 or 660 companies, and there was very basic distinctions that we've discovered in terms of there's certain three types of internet startups. That the startups that succeed, they were founders who were interested in learning. So it was very basic finding, but very true. Like the startup that learn succeed. So the founders who were watching good blogs and learning from experts and things like that, they had much higher chance of raising money and reaching product market fit and creating a good product. Versus the founders who were not interested in learning, who were just focused on their own strong area of expertise, and they wanted to build in it.
Yeah.
So another good learning was that there are certain thresholds that startups crosses as they go from one stage to the next. So we've identified 4 stages that the startup goes through from the discovery stage. Very similar to the knowledge that was laid the ground by Steve Blank on the 4 steps to epiphany, and then what came out of that was the lean startup model. And so it was similar basics, but we've included additional resources to it, data that relates to the product. So we took what was the customer development model and combined it more with other variables that relates to how the customer interact with the product and data about the products. And then we shown, the other learning is that there are certain thresholds that company crosses when they go from one stage to the next.
Which are?
The stages is like you're going from discovery to validation, efficiency, and scale.
Okay.
And in each stage, there are certain things that must happen before you know that you've completed that stage. So the third most important learning was that most startups, despite of whatever their location or anything else, the most consistent reason for failure was what we called premature scaling, meaning that they focus more on one aspect, they jump ahead of themselves. So we broke down that there are 5 dimensions to the startup as a business. There is the customer, it's the product, it's a team, financial model, and a business model. Or the financials and the business model. And for companies that they get so the jobs of the founder is really juggling these 5 dimensions and keeping them moving in harmony, if you would. And the startups that fail, they typically ignored some of those aspects, and they focus too much on one. They might have focused on building too much product before they verify the business model and the use it. Or the companies that raise too much money, they tend to show less chance of success also because they use the money to get a lot of publicity about the product, and people may go to their product and they use it, but the product wasn't ready. So that's that's kind of very damaging.
Right.
So the premature scaling, and then we've released another report 3 months later, and it was primarily about this findings, which is going in depth in what we call premature scaling and defining what all these pieces, and released the first automated version of the report that helps the entrepreneurs complete the survey and get their own customized benchmark. It's like their own genome that benchmarks them against other sample size of 3,200 startups that they pulled.
And that also leads you to your product, because there was a lot of research that you've done. And now you, as Blackbox, also want to earn money at one point, and that is the product that came out. Yeah. So, is it a software as a service model, or an online model where you can benchmark your startup against other startups and then draw conclusions on if you will probably be successful or rather not?
Well, what it's it's going back to the initial goal, like how do we accelerate. How do we help them in this acceleration process? So with this tool, it helps. The first time they complete the survey, it tells them where they're at in reference to other startups. It tells them what type they are. So it's an understanding what type you are, and then gives them in the report, like companies of this type, this is their blueprint, if you would. And it helps them identify what stage they're in also. Mm-hmm. So the goal right now is this is like the MVP. I mean, this is the first product that we put, and the purpose of it is to help companies like be aware of what type and what stage they're in. Right. Now we're working on iterating and improving the products, and we've found a lot of requests from companies that they want to use it as a tool to also communicate with their investors and advisors about where they're at. So it's becoming more like evolving into a dashboard tool that helps them measure their evolution.
All right.
And so that's where the product focus is. Once we released it, we've gotten close to 9,000 additional startup complete who use the product. So now we have the databases in excess of 10,000 startups. All right. So the larger the data set, the more intelligence we could gather out of it, and the more we could provide them as a tool. And then the next level of it is building something of an educational content about all these best practices.
All right.
And that is where we believe we can help in that acceleration process, is making this available education, making it available online for the founders. Now they understand where they're at, and then they're in a validation stage. There are certain let's say certain workshops and topics of experts that they're expert in this area, where probably user interface and testing and getting these measurements at that area. So this could become very helpful for them at that stage. We want to give them the content, give them the knowledge also.
That is a little bit like the existing companies like Y Combinator or 500 Startups. They coach the startups manually, hands-on. And do you try to scale that on a worldwide base, and you try to make that knowledge available to everyone who wants to make use of it all over the world? What do you think? What are the advantages of both of the systems? Well, you can, when you use the black box system, of course you can even, no matter where you are, New Zealand, India, you can make use of your knowledge. What could be the advantages of other systems like Y Combinator?
Well, Y Combinator is extremely effective. I mean, the highest value you get really when you get with the persons and you're meeting with them on a weekly basis. You're advising them on, you have this interface. You're getting constant knowledge about their data and what's changing in their metrics and the feedback loop.
Feedback.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's very, very valuable, and it's very effective, and it's working great. With our model, I think the value is it's going to be more on a broader level, and the challenge is how we continue to increase that value. And then if we offer intelligence tools, so I mean, mentoring and working with the companies in person, it has the highest return always. But then that's like you can't scale that, right?
Right. Lack of time.
Exactly.
You can't
We're
be
limited to our positions and our time, and how do we make that? So it's so each model has a different intent and different speed and different purpose. You know, we don't invest money yet. This is another thing that they invest money in these startups. Right now, the value we think a lot of the startups have is really in getting that guidance, in getting methods that they will get feedback to their decision making and navigating their, you know, their venture throughout their growth.
Yeah, all right. Sounds very interesting to scale this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you a lot of success for that, and I'm pretty curious what the next steps will be.
Yeah, well, the next step right now is really to establish this knowledge base that is from experts and create this online education also that we could offer to these startups. So we're putting a 1 week conference the first week of November, where we would invite about 25 startup or so and to come in, and on each day, like the first day, we will be going into the discovery stage. The second day will be focusing on the validation and then the efficiency and the scale. On the fifth day, we will discuss like the fundraising and the legal aspects, but create like a curriculum with this knowledge that we could record with the best expert that we could invite. Okay. Get startups that they could also learn from each other. It's extremely valuable when you have a company from Germany and a company from Brazil and a company from Russia and a company from South America, whatever. When there's a lot of value that they could learn from each other also when you put them in the same room and they having different problems that they're questioning. So that's where we're taking it next. Good.
Yeah, well, I wish you a good conference and a lot of success for the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for the interview.